The Ukrainian armed forces launched a powerful counterattack near Pokrovsk. Did Mordvichev plan a cauldron for 10,000 soldiers? Good afternoon, dear friends. We continue to analyze the situation on the front lines with you in our daily format. So friends, today there will be both good news and bad news. Such is the current reality. Let's start with the good news and then move on to a detailed analysis of the area where certain problems have arisen. So the good news, from the so-called Kurakhove pocket, this area here, there are two episodes. First, Russian troops advanced yesterday in the area of the village of Zelenovka and took control of these forest belts. This was done to shell the UAF groups retreating from the area of the village of Dakhnoye, which has come under Russian control. Look, they are retreating from Dakhnoye to Ugledar, and now they are being shelled from these positions. Thus, the UAF did not manage a safe withdrawal. Well, who is to blame for this? They themselves are to blame, because if they had retreated earlier, they might have been able to withdraw without losses. That's about this episode, but the most important news here is, of course, the village to the north. This large village of Andreevka. Here I am using a map. This is a Ukrainian map, and it is not fully updated. But even on it, you can see that the eastern, northern, southern, and central parts of the village are already under the control of Russian troops. It turns out that, even according to this map, the UAF retains only a small area on the western side of the village. Here, literally, look, a kilometer-long section of Andrei Sologub Street. Yes, here are 500 meters of Franco Lane. And that's it. That's all the UAF controls. Although all day yesterday, there were reports, and not from Russian military correspondents, but from the Ukrainian side, that the western part of the village, if not completely under Russian control, has at least become a grey zone. In particular, a Ukrainian military analyst who calls himself Officer wrote about this. There was complete panic in his Telegram channel. He says that Russian military equipment is now calmly driving around the village, not even afraid of strikes from FPV drones. He also says that Russian troops have broken through to the western part of the village, and, in general, attention. De facto, Andreevka is lost and has come under Russian control. Well, as I already told you in a recent episode, the village is large in area, but the UAF lost it much faster than Dakhnoye, even though Dakhnoye is 3 times smaller in area. What will happen next? Well, from Andreevka, the movement will go to the next large village. This is the village of Alexievka, and this is the last real fortified area on the way to the Dnipropetrovsk region and Novopavlovka. Further, there are only 3 very small villages that will not be able to delay the Russian troops. Well, after these 3 villages, you see a 10-kilometer open space up to Novopavlovka itself. Well, we've discussed the good news, now let's move on to the bad news. A difficult situation has developed in the area of the city of Pokrovsk. I have already told you and will repeat. With the arrival of General Dropotov here, many reserves have also been gathered here. In particular, there are now 12 brigades concentrated on the UAF side. Not small forces for one area. For several days, activity by Ukrainian troops was expected, as warned, and now it has begun. 4 areas where the UAF attacked. With varying success, some where they achieved nothing, and some where they quite possibly succeeded. Well, let's look at the details. Let's start with the village of Dakhnoye. Here, the UAF did not succeed. They tried to counterattack both in the village itself and to the south, but they did not achieve success anywhere. On the contrary, yesterday, Russian troops advanced 200 meters into the residential area of the village and are now essentially within arm's reach of the center. The second area where the Ukrainian armed forces conducted a counterattack is the area of the village of Kotlina. Here, the main goal, that is, to enter the village, was not achieved by the UAF, but they did have some local success. In particular, they managed to advance 600 meters along the road towards Kotlina. And thus, they pushed back the Russian positions by these 600 meters. Well, that's all in this area, although, of course, we should expect the attack to continue. And the main goal set for the Ukrainian armed forces here is to enter Kotlino and try to dislodge the Russian troops from the village. Will they succeed? Well, I don't think so. The most significant success of the UAF counterattack was recorded in Peshani. Here you can see it on the map. A significant breakthrough. What happened? Look, the UAF, with the support of armored vehicles, attacked the northeastern part of the village. They managed to break in and gain a foothold in this area. Yesterday, they launched an attack from the northeastern to the southern outskirts of the village. Well, that is, look, through the entire village. Some of the equipment was burned, and there is video evidence of this, but some of the equipment managed to break through. And now it must be admitted that de facto Pashani is no longer under stable Russian control, but has turned into a grey zone. That is, look, in some places there is Russian control, and in others, UAF control. And this is the grey zone, and it is clear that the Ukrainian military command will throw new forces here to develop and consolidate their initial success. Well, the last area where the UAF attacked is the village of Dachinskoye. The attack was carried out from the north to the eastern part of the village. The UAF also managed to achieve success here. That is, the eastern part of Dachinskoye has come under their control. How will events develop further? Well, they will try to accumulate forces in the eastern part of the village, to then try to dislodge the Russian garrison from the central and western parts of Dachinskoye. In general, the situation on the Pokrovsk direction is now extremely difficult. The UAF has accumulated significant reserves and is now trying to seize the initiative. There is a confrontation between the commanders, that is, between Mordvichev and Dropat. In general, we are watching closely with you. The interfluve of the Solenaya and Volchia rivers on February 11th, Preobrazhenka, Zaporozhye. After the Russian armed forces took control of Uspianovka, the main fighting has concentrated in the interfluve of the Solenaya and Volchia rivers. If we do not take into account Andreevka, which also formally belongs to this area, the key battles are taking place in the area of Preobrazhenka and Zaporozhye. The Russian armed forces, apparently, are aiming to create a wedge in the UAF defense, advancing towards the border of the Dnipropetrovsk region. This creates the possibility of further advancement both into the rear of the southern part of the UAF's Novopavlovsk front and directly towards Novopavlovka. The UAF command, in turn, is making efforts to prevent this scenario. Chasiv Yar direction on February 11th. Situation: the Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF, are currently holding several last heights in the central part of Chasiv Yar. Their position is complicated by the inability to evacuate the wounded and organize supplies. These strongholds of the UAF are under constant pressure, and their elimination, apparently, is a matter of time. Combat operations also continue in the southern part of the city. Here, the progress of the parties is insignificant and is of a tactical nature. However, these actions bring closer the final stage of the struggle for the territory where the city of Chasiv Yar was once located. After the end of the war, there is reason to believe that this settlement will be able to revive and start a new life. Severe direction: Russian assault groups have taken control of a large UAF stronghold on the approaches to the eastern outskirts of the village of Verkhnekamenskoye. This information is confirmed by objective control footage. Kupyansk direction: Russian troops continue to expand the control zone on the western bank of the Oskol River. A section of the R79 highway, more than 3 kilometers wide and about 1 kilometer deep, between the villages of Dvoroshnaya and Zapadnoye, has come under the control of Russian forces. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side, showing an attack on advanced Russian positions using FPV drones. According to reports from individual sources, Russian units from the village of Zapadnoye have advanced westward and are close to the eastern outskirts of the village of Doroshovka, but there is no confirmation on the ground yet. Kharkiv direction: no changes. Kursk region: in the eastern part of the Sudzha district, Russian troops continue to eliminate the consequences of the UAF's attempted breakthrough from the village of Makhnovka. According to available data, units of the North Group of troops have cleared the forest area adjacent to the southern outskirts of the village of Fanasivka and have also returned control of the village itself. In addition, the UAF were driven out of a number of positions near the village of Cherkasskaya Konopelka, in the area of the highway leading to the village of Ulanok. In the western part of the Sudzha district, Russian troops went on the offensive and advanced about 600 meters along the Koronevo-Sudzha highway, occupying the northwestern outskirts of the village of Sverlikovo. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side, showing an attack on advanced Russian positions using FPV drones. The UAF were forced to retreat to the left bank of the Lochnia River, where, according to some reports, they began mining the crossings. According to reports from individual sources, Russian assault groups entered the village from the southwest, taking up positions in residential buildings on Kutor Street. But there is no confirmation on the ground yet. Well, I bid you farewell. I wish you a good working day. See you soon.